guys, we are less than a week away from once again seeing the Canadian men's national team back in action. That will be on October 15th at BMO Field in Toronto, where they're taking on Panama. And we've come to expect great things of this team, gentlemen, because their performances have warranted it. They've done well now against European teams. They are one of the perennial contenders as well in Concacaf. Long gone are the days where they take on the US or Mexico and it's kind of like, oh, this is going to be a spanking. Not happening anymore. The expectations are high for this team. So on October 15th, right here on One Soccer, you can watch them take on Panama. But the big question then, given all the success and all the feel-good feelings wheels around this team, should we actually expect Canada to dominate Panama on Tuesday night?
I think dominate is too strong of a word. Win the game, certainly. I mean, that's what you need to establish back here at home. For me, that's why it's such an important game. The fact that it's actually being played on Canadian soil and setting the tone, setting the tenor of what Jesse Marsh football at BMO Field or elsewhere across this country, it's vitally important. Remember the last time that we were there, it was a loss to Jamaica, capitulation, where really there was nothing but bad vibes coming out of that game. Now there's clearly a direction. The players are growing. They're developing right before our eyes. I just think dominate's too strong, Andy, because Panama's a really good team. They're probably after the big three in this region. I think that Panama and Jamaica, they're competing for who's that fourth best team. They've been coming for quite some time now, coming up with results, playing in the Nations League semifinal, making it to a Gold Cup final. I had a scout tell me years ago, look out for Panama. They're developing really good young players and they're coming through, and they're certainly a team to look out for. And I don't think that they've let us down in terms of that perspective as well. Even with the under 20s, where Canada played them a few months ago, Panama, although it was a 2-1 result and went to extra time, Panama were by far the better side in that game. So don't underestimate the opponent. It's a good test, despite there just being this one game in the window. So Canada to win, yes. Dominate, I think that's a big ask.
Panama is also the team that kept the U.S. on American soil from going to the Copa America into the next round. They were down 1-0. I know there's a red card by Weah in that match, but the way that Panama was resilient and just tactical and to score 2 goals and to beat them, it just shows everything what this team is about. I think their manager as well, Thomas Christensen, I know of Danish heritage, like very tactical football, like wants to play, but also just that the formative years being at Barcelona as well. You know what Barca really stands for in that type of football. I love, Wheels kind of alluded to it and painted a picture, but being back on Canadian soil for the Canadians, they've played so many games away and high tempo, high pressing. Now they get to rely on the fans when they get into the 18, when they get a shot on goal. If they inevitably score that 1 goal as well, they have the fans behind them on a BMO night in Toronto, where they've had so much success throughout recent years. So you usually see them here when they're playing on American soil and they have to go and almost shush the crowd. Now it's every time you do something positive, you have the stadium behind you. So I think, dominate is a strong word, but I'm expecting that Canadian performance that we know and love now, which is high tempo, high pressure, working for each other. And then when they get into those areas, they have the crowd and everyone backing them.
I will say this, Andy, because they played a lot of good teams. They've been able to press a lot, play on the counterattack a lot. Now they'll be expected to play on the front foot. And this is right in your wheelhouse, Petrilla. Like, just, are they technically good enough to put the ball into the back of the net and break down teams methodically in ways that don't come off, a loss of possession or playing on the counterattack? So I think it's going to be a different type of game and a good experience for them to play a team like this right now.
Yeah, I mean, the fans themselves, they're just expecting goals. And even though this is a friendly, it does have some implications as well when it comes to, the rankings and also just the seeding in Nations League. So yes, friendly result does matter. And it's also nice that they were able to take advantage. The Canadians were of this longer camp. We know that they were in Montreal. We know that they visited youth clubs. We know that, once again, Jesse Marsh, he's calling this the people's team, making them a little bit more available, holding this open training session, but they're taking advantage of that time together. Canada Soccer obviously acknowledging the congested schedule in Europe. It was very hard to schedule another game during this time, but they've made the most of it. And you're right, like Jesse Marsh has said to us, I'm still trying to work on some things with some of these guys, not to say that you snap your fingers and suddenly, okay, here we go. But I do think it's now's the time to start seeing some goals. Let's see what they can do against Panama. But they're going to once again be without Ishmael Kone, who we know is dealing with an ankle injury, perhaps maybe picked up another ankle injury. We could talk about him in just a moment, but in particular, with that space being available there, who do you think has the biggest chance, Jordan, of stepping up in the midfield?
Mathieu Chouanier, that was my best French accent right there. Look, he was exceptional.
Wasn't very good.
I was waiting for Wheels. He's like 4 out of 10, if that. He did everything that was asked of him and more in the 90+ minutes that he played against the Americans. The tempo and the wheels, the legs that are required to play this midfield, this 2-man midfield that is pressing, picking up seconds, putting pressure on the ball. It's not even right now that he has to go and step up. He has to just continue doing what he did. Before it was like he was an option. Now I think he's a genuine person that Marsh relies on to come into that midfield. Of course, obviously Kone is a Rolls Royce, but if you go and keep showing that you can play with Eustachio, that you can play this type of system with Marsh, how he has it, yeah, he's a guy that will be coming into camp. You got to think, before Chouanier was a guy a year and a half ago that wasn't even getting mentioned into camp. Now starting matches. So I think this time when a player's gone like Kone, you have to go and raise your level that much more to just show that the manager can trust you.
Yeah, because Kone can play another position. He can play higher up underneath the 9. If at some point you don't want to play with 2 strikers, Kone has that ability to push up. So there is a spot to be taken there. I'm going to stick with my guy, and it's a guy filling the shoes or playing the Mathieu Chouanier role with CF Montreal now, and that is Nathan Saliba. Like, not only is he very young, he started the last 8 games for CF Montreal where they've picked up a little bit of steam here, heading towards what they hope to be a playoff spot in Major League Soccer. But he started 17 of the last 18 games, and this player is growing before our eyes. There's nothing against Chouanier. I just think that Saliba, between now and the World Cup, has a higher ceiling. And I think that he's going to be the real X factor potentially in that Canada midfield. So I like to see him play a little bit more. Just came on for a couple minutes last time out, but that's a player I'm certainly hoping gets a little bit of a run out against Panama on Tuesday night.
Either of you concerned with Kone? I mean, obviously during Copa, it's this big move over to Europe, and now it just seems like he's been hit with the injury bug. Is this just kind of like bad timing? Are you not concerned at all? Anybody?
Not concerned. I'd obviously prefer him being fit and playing with Canada, but none of these seem like chronic or lingering issues. Hopefully that we can just chalk this down to a run of bad luck. But this is the nature of football today. A lot of games for very young players, and injuries are prevalent across the game today. So whether Kone's out, whether Buchanan's out, whoever that player may be, it's a next man up scenario for Canada. So I don't think that any player not named, even Alphonso Davies during World Cup qualifying, it's got to be that next man up mentality, right? So every player needs to be looking over their shoulder in terms of their role in the team. So let's see what the next man up does.
And I think Marsh understands the player pool. There needs to be more depth, right? That's why all these players as well are coming in, just to see if there's anyone that he's missed. And that's what you got to do with international football. You can't just go at 15. You got to roll deep, and everyone has to be ready to go and fill that role. So this is why he has this long tour as well, and the players coming in for this camp. So it's very important.
True. I mean, depth obviously matters, but at the same time, I just know, we were sitting here on this show when Alphonso Davies was having all these injuries going, oh my goodness, right? It was scary. It was a headache, especially when it looked like he did something to his hamstring before the World Cup. Tajon Buchanan, obviously, he's been dealing with a ton of injury. Now breaks his leg. You're sitting there going, oh, come on, the speed on that wing. You need your best players. Yeah, Canada's missing, right? I don't want to be having these conversations about Kone. So fingers crossed for him, especially since it also seems like he's taking these next steps in his career as well. You don't want to see them stalled. So we know Jesse Marsh, obviously, he does have his preferred players. We know this. And it's been great that he calls in the young guys as well. And he's giving them the exposure and the experience in training, no doubt. But who do you want to see more of in this window, Jordan? Is there a player where you're like, come on, give him something, give him some minutes here?
On one hand, I definitely want to see him play, but on the other, I understand how Marsh has played these 2 players in front of that person because they've been electric. They've probably been the best part of this Canadian team in these recent games, and that is at the center back position. I want to see Luc de Figueroa. The timing of when a manager plays a young player is crucial. You don't want to play that player with all young players and expect them to go into that role and do well. Like he played him in that fourth match for the third place match against Uruguay at Copas. And you could see that this kid has something. Wheels, you talk about all the time. And every time I see him play, you could see this young man definitely has what it takes. But that center back position, you don't want to just throw him to the wolves. Is this the match to go and play him? It depends on the week that he's had with Undermarsh. But I just want to see a world where we know the two center backs that you prefer. But I would love to see, I know Kamal Miller's not there this time, but that for me is, that could be a 1B situation where you have a Kamal Miller and you have a Luc de Figueroa, those two guys, because it's not going to be every time that Bombito and Cornelius are fresh and ready to go. And you can't just rely on two center backs. But this player has it. It's just picking that time when Marsh is going to play him and give him the opportunity.
Yeah, well, on Kamal Miller, seems like he's a player that has lost through Jesse Marsh coming in. It just doesn't seem like he's a favorite of the manager. I rate the player, but certainly Jesse Marsh hasn't really been giving him extended looks as well. So there's an opportunity at center back. And again, you need more than two guys that are going to carry you through here over the next few years. I'll go back to the well with the same name just because he hasn't been available. Sam Adekubi. Like he was with the team last camp and he was out through injury, then back in, and he just hasn't had a run of games. He's played once for Canada in the last 16 months. Like he just hasn't been around or available. And I've said this before, I think Canada is a better team when he plays, allowing a little bit more freedom down that left-hand side for Alphonso Davies to do his thing. So the last time Sam Adekubi played for Canada was in the first leg of that Jamaica series. Since that time, it just hasn't been available. Yeah. So, and I know, and based upon what Jesse Marsh said ahead of the last window, he was looking forward to giving him some time and getting him on the field. So let's hope that Adekubi remains healthy and fit enough and plays some kind of role here next week.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So once again, October 15th, it is Canada, Panama, BMO Field in Toronto, right here on One Soccer. It's official, gentlemen, in the Northern Super League, which will be kicking off in April 2025. All 6 teams now have a name. Montreal was the latest to unveil their name. They are the Roses. So let's take a look at all 6 NSL clubs and what their names and crests are. You could take a look at that right now and you could see what they
good
are.
Color palette there. Good colors.
They really do have a good color palette. I do like it. So, you know, your Calgary Wild, Halifax Tides, your Montreal Roses FC, Ottawa Rapid, it's AFC Toronto, and it's Vancouver Rise. AFC Toronto just keeping it simple, baby. They're keeping it simple. But we got the Wild, the Tides, the Roses, the Rapid, the Rise. Who's your favorite, Jordo?
There's a couple. I will say this. No matter who they play FC Toronto, I will be there on that day at York Lions Stadium. Well, I guess their home match. We don't know if the first one's home, but regardless, the one I can make, I'm there. I love Ottawa Rapid FC, like that kind of blue. But all of them I like. But if I had to pick one that is my favorite, I'll definitely say that. I'm so excited to see this kit release, the way that it's launched, because these colors, the color palettes of all of these clubs, exceptional. Chef's kiss.
Which one? Who's your favorite?
Ottawa Rapids.
Oh, so that is your favorite. Ottawa Rapids your favorite. Okay.
I like them all, but that is my favorite.
Okay.
Well, I got a clear favorite, a number 1, and it was delivered last. I'm a big fan of the Stone Roses, and this is the one, the Montreal Roses. I like the touch. I like the blue. I like the pop. I like the name. I like the logo. I like everything about this. The best, they saved the best for last, truly. The Montreal Roses. Love it.
I have to say Halifax for me. Halifax Tides. I love it. I love the color as well. I think there's a lot you could do with just the crashing waves and everything. I'm really excited to see what their kit's going to look like.
I do have a small
issue
with the name.
Is that maybe it? Like you think of
yourself
somewhere warm.
Like the Halifax Tides. Watch out for the Tides.
No. What? Do you know what I think? Wash my clothes in the tide. Like that's what I think of. I'm sorry.
Who washes their clothes in the tide? Are you living in a forest?
No, Tide.
And why?
Brand Tide.
Yeah, keep up, Petrillo. Tide.
She's like, I have peasants that wash my clothes. I don't wash them. Yeah. What is Tide?
Yes.
Washing machine.
That's
my
it.
That's it. Show up in my closet.
No. And I didn't. Tide was plural, like tides. Like I thought that the name Tide was plural. The tide, high tide, low tide.
Yeah. Stop getting technical. I like Halifax. Leave me alone. But they are great.
Tide in Welsh is grandfather. My dad goes by Tide to my little boy. So
wow.
Anyways,
nice.
That's all.
Okay.
Didn't know that.
Thanks for the history lesson.
Tide.
Let's get to the tonybet top picks. Some clean laundry that just appeared over there too. Amazing how that happened.
Dry clean only. Dry clean.
Yeah, that's it, baby. Let's wrap up the show with some tonybet top picks for the upcoming CPL weekend. We have just under 3 minutes here. So we have Forge, Atletico Ottawa, Cavalry, Halifax Wanderers, Vancouver Valor, which we just talked about. Wheels, what you got for Forge, Ottawa?
It's going to be a celebration at Tim Hortons Field, isn't it? Where the Canadian Premier League Shield will be presented. It'll be a party. And based upon home form, how can you go any other direction than Forge? Bobby Smirniota said it, like these two games are warm-up matches when Jordan Wilson asked him last weekend. We need to set the tone heading into the playoffs. 11-1-1 at home this season. Give me a Forge win here.
Mm-hmm. You like that?
I do. Sorry, I do. Okay. I didn't know you were on the answer, Andy. My fault. I was like,
Okay, well, I'll give you this. I'll give you Cavalry and Halifax.
This one's difficult because Cavalry is going for that second place spot that they obviously want to have.
Yeah.
But then you're looking at Halifax. I'm basing it on the season that they've had. When they have that match where they need to pull something off, they usually do. But I'm still gonna go with Cavalry. I think they have this one. I think it'll be close though. A 1-0 game. It'll be very tight.
Cavalry home game. Halifax Wanderers. It's a draw. It's always a draw when they play. I just feel like draw is the safest bet in the Canadian Premier League right now.
All right. Well, who you? We just kind of discussed it, but who do you actually think will take this one between Vancouver and Valor?
Draw, because that's what they do. These teams, all they do is draw.
I'm going spicy.
I never back the draw, but now it's
all
time
I
to back
do is
the
draw, no matter
what.
I think Valor's
and then we stay there in the table, and we stay there in the table.
A lot is happening right now. Too much. I will say. Next question, Andy Petrillo.
I think Wheels used too much Tide, and now he's
so what's happening? I'm upset with myself because I kind of like this version. I was like, I was bobbing my head a little bit, so I'm upset.
Yeah. Anyways, listen. Let's just hope it's not any draws. We want to see some wins. Let's just hope that the next time we see the Canadian men's national team, it's a win.
Let's
not
go,
a draw
boys.
against Panama. There's a lot to look forward to, including the show. Thanks for tuning in.